Hi everybody. We are learning to program in F#. We had an introductory lesson where we processed a payroll evaluation. The first version used a timesheet for 1 week. In this version, once again, we will process a simple payroll evaluation. This time, our timesheet will cover 2 weeks. Start Microsoft Visual Studio. In the Visual Studio 2022 dialog box, click Create a new project. In the Create a new project dialog box, in the Languages combo box, select F#. In the list of project templates, select Console App. It should be selected already. Then click Next. In the Configure your new project dialog box, change the project name to Payroll Evaluation 2. And set the location to whatever we want. Then click Next. In the Additional Information dialog box, in the Framework combo box, select the highest version. For me, it is .NET 9 Standard Term Support. Then click Create. I have put the code we will use for our exercise. In the top section, we start by displaying some accessory lines, such as the application name, which is Payroll Evaluation, and we prepare the user to enter some information. In our application, we will request a first name from the user, which is a string. Then we will request a last name. Then we will request the hourly salary. We will request the time work for 2 weeks. So we start with the first week. We request the time worked on Monday. Then we request the time worked on Tuesday for the first week. Then we request the time worked on Wednesday. Then we request the time worked on Thursday. And we request the time worked on Friday. In the same way, for the second week, we request the time worked on Monday. Then we request the time worked on Tuesday. Then we request the time worked on Wednesday. Then we request the time worked on Thursday. And finally, we request the time worked on Friday. To get the total time worked for the first week, we add the time worked on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We add them and we store the result in a variable named week 1 time worked. In the same way, to get the total time worked on for the second week, we add the time worked on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we store the result in a variable named week 2 time worked. Before starting the calculation, we declare some variable. We assume that the user worked regular time, which is the time worked for a week, and we start with the first week. The overtime is 0 because we assume that the user worked on a regular week only. And for the regular salary, we will multiply the hourly salary by the time worked for the first week. The overtime pay is 0. Now, if the user had worked overtime, and the user is full-time, probably, then we need to calculate the overtime. We use an if conditional statement. This time we set the regular time to 40. For the overtime, we subtract 40 from the time worked. For the regular pay, we multiply the hourly salary by 40. And for the overtime pay, we multiply the hourly salary by 1.5 to show that the employee is paid time and a half, and we multiply that result by the overtime. We do the calculations exact same way for the second week. That will lead us to get the net pay for the first week, which is gotten by adding the regular pay to the overtime pay. We will do the same for the second week. To get the total pay, we add the net pay for the first week to the net pay of the second week. We store the result in a variable named net pay. The rest of the application is to show the result. To test the application and see the result, if you are using Microsoft Visual Studio, on the main menu, you click Debug, Start without debugging. Open Request. I type a first name and I press Enter. I type a last name and I press Enter. I type the hourly salary and I press Enter. For the time worked, for the first week on Monday, I type 7, I press Enter. Tuesday, I type 8, I press Enter. Wednesday, I type 6.5, I press Enter. Thursday, I type 8.5, I press Enter. Friday, I type 7.5, and I press Enter. For the second week, for Monday, I type 9.5, I press Enter. Tuesday, I type 8.5, I press Enter. For Wednesday, I type 10.5, I press Enter. For Thursday, I type 9, I press Enter. And for Friday, I type 8 and I press Enter. And the application shows the result. To close the DOS window, if you are using Microsoft Visual Studio, you can press any key. To execute the application again, on the main menu, I click Debug, Start without debugging. Once again, I type the value requested. I type the first name, and I press Enter. I type a last name, and I press Enter. I type the hourly salary. I press Enter. For the time worked, for the first week, on Monday, I type 9.5, I press Enter. For Tuesday, I type 8, I press Enter. For Wednesday, I type 10.5, I press Enter. For Thursday, I type 9, and I press Enter. And for Friday, I type 8.5, and I press Enter. For the second week, for Monday, I type 8, and I press Enter. For Tuesday, I type 7.5, I press Enter. For Wednesday, I type 8, I press Enter. For Thursday, I type 6.5. And for Friday, I type 7.5, and I press Enter. Once again, the application shows the result. To close the DOS window, if you're using Microsoft Visual Studio, you can press any key and it returns to your programming environment.